Okay, diving right in today. We've got a pretty major development to unpack.
Yeah,
Supreme Court ruling, and it's really kind of shaking things up in Parliament, it
it
seems.
is. Yeah, big implications.
So you sent over this transcript, and it was from an online YouTube video.
Right.
It's called Speaker Asked to Resign.
Mm.
So that's what we're going to sort of deep dive into today. Try to understand what is at the heart of this ruling
Yeah.
and why it matters so much.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So this whole thing really revolves around this motion of no confidence that the opposition brought forward.
Right.
And the deputy speaker decided that it shouldn't even be put on the notice paper to be debated in Parliament.
So essentially, they tried to block it from even being considered.
Yeah, exactly.
And that decision is what ended up going to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So what happened? What did the court actually rule here?
Well, the court really started with the opposition on this one.
Okay.
They declared that the deputy speaker's move to block that motion of no confidence was unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional. So that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's huge. It really highlights how important this is.
Absolutely. And so the transcript also talks a bit about this private business committee,
Right, the PBC.
the PBC. So what's their role in all of this, and how did the Supreme Court kind of weigh in on what they were doing?
Yeah. So the interesting thing here is that the Supreme Court kind of clarified what the PBC is supposed to be doing,
Okay.
their purpose.
Mm.
So think of them as like guardians of accountability for the executive branch.
Okay.
So their job is to make sure that really important motions, like a motion of no confidence, actually get to the Parliament floor to be considered.
So they're not there to block things, they're there to facilitate things
Exactly.
to make sure that those discussions happen.
Yeah, and the court basically said they overstepped their boundaries by trying to prevent this motion from going forward.
Okay,
They shouldn't be acting as a barrier.
got it. So one of the members of parliament, they actually offered a solution in the transcript.
Yeah.
What did they think should happen to maybe avoid this kind of thing happening in the future?
Yeah, they proposed like a structural change to the PBC
Okay.
to try and make it more balanced.
Okay.
So their idea was to limit the PBC to just the speaker as the chair,
Mm-hmm.
and then two members from the government and two members from the opposition.
Okay, so a more kind of even split there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, it makes sense. All right, so the transcript also quotes Sika quite a bit.
Yeah.
What were they emphasizing as kind of the big takeaways from this ruling?
Well, they were really stressing that the PBC has to act within its jurisdiction.
Okay,
They can't just go outside of their defined roles.
right.
And I think the really crucial point they made was that if you obstruct a motion of no confidence, you're basically obstructing the people's ability to hold their leaders accountable.
Right, because that's what a motion of no confidence is all about, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the people saying, hey, we want to challenge this leadership.
Yeah.
Now, Sika also specifically called out Section 165 of the Standing Orders. What was the issue with that?
Well, the court basically said that Section 165 was unconstitutional in this context.
Okay.
So it seems like that rule was being used improperly
Yeah.
to kind of silence the motion.
So it wasn't just that it was applied incorrectly, but the rule itself was a problem
That's right. Yeah.
when it came to motions of no confidence.
And they also argued that the PBC shouldn't be nitpicking motions of no confidence and looking for little technicalities to dismiss them.
Yeah, like tiny little perceived defects or whatever.
Yeah, because that can become a way to avoid having the conversation at all.
Right, just shut it down before it even gets started.
Exactly. And then because of all of this, Suka actually made a pretty big demand.
They did. Yeah, what was that?
They called for the speaker, the deputy speaker, and the entire PBC to resign,
Wow.
given their involvement in all of this that led to this Supreme Court case.
So they basically said, you messed up.
Yeah.
You need to step down.
This is serious.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a sec. What's the big takeaway here for you?
Well, I think it really highlights the importance of checks and balances in government
Okay.
and the right of the opposition to challenge the people in power.
Mm-hmm.
It really forces us to re-examine how Parliament works and the role of groups like the PBC.
Yeah, to make sure that right of the opposition isn't being undermined.
Exactly.
So as you're thinking about this ruling, what does it tell us about how power is balanced in this political system? And what might happen next, after this judgment and this call for resignations?
Yeah.
What could the fallout be?
I think those are the big questions we need to be asking ourselves
Thanks.
moving forward.
Lots to think about. So thank you for breaking that down.
Of course.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
See you next time.